My guests today are writer-director duo Julia Axe and Steve Pinder and their hilarious short film, Jane Austen's Period Drama. It had a successful world premiere at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and the whimsical live-action short was selected for the prestigious Oscar-qualifying Cleveland International Film Festival, where it was named one of the top 10 films to watch. Personally, I would name this as the top film to watch. Period. Yes, pun intended. So set in 1813 England in the middle of a long-awaited marriage proposal, Miss Estrogenia Talbot gets her period, and her suitor, Mr. Dickley, mistakes the blood for an injury, and it soon becomes clear that his expensive education, has missed a spot. And the stunning cinematography was created by Emmy-nominated Luca Del Puppo and rivals any multi-million-dollar Jane Austen film, such as Pride and Prejudice. And co-writer-directors Julia Axe and Steve Pinder's wonderful partnership began in 2016 when Steve was directing a Sound of Music parody while studying at USC and discovered Julia's impeccable Julie Andrews impersonation. Now in 2019, the two came together once again to co-direct a Julie Andrews parody of Ariana Grande's Seven Rings. Now the parody went viral and the pair began a string of collaborations for Julia's YouTube channel. So let's welcome co-writers and directors Julia Axe and Steve Pinder and their absolute hilarious short film, Jane Austen's Period Drama, to the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Wow, that was such an incredible intro.
Yeah.
I have to say, you two deserve it after the film that I had the absolute pleasure to watch. And I watched it more than once because it's just too funny. But both of you co-wrote and co-directed Jane Austen's Period Drama. I have to say, nobody in the world of cinema has created a better title hook than you two. I mean, at first, you're thinking,
Wow.
Oh, another period piece. But wait a minute. This is actually having a period. So explain this amazing film to us.
Well, it actually the idea began with the title. We both love puns in general. And I grew up with a father who, for my entire childhood, told so many horrible, charming dad jokes and spoonerisms and just wordplay and puns. So since I was a kid, I've always loved stuff like that. And while we were creating a lot of sketch comedy together, Steve and I, the title came to me and I was like, oh, it's a period drama about periods. Huh, it's kind of funny. And so like many of our ideas that we take to the absolute maximum, Steve liked it too, and we just ran with it.
You know, what is so funny is when I watched this film, and I've seen, a lot of the Jane Austen films out there, or any period film that's based in, anywhere from the 16th, 17th, or 18th centuries. And, you watch the films and your mind drifts and you start thinking of stuff that really doesn't matter. And when you're watching them, for everyone who's ever watched the Jane Austen film may have had the same thought. What did they do in the 1800s if a woman has her period? You just don't run down to CVS to take care of it. So you two must have some very wild brainstorming sessions.
Yes.
And research sessions.
Yeah, we both learned a lot about menstruation and women's bodies and what they had and didn't have back at the time to deal with this stuff. And
and how little was documented about it, so it's
they're
interesting too.
During Jane Austen's time, we found in a lot of our research that there actually kind of is a gap of documentation during this time. There's not a lot about what women did during their menstrual periods. And so we've had some of it we had to kind of imagine, and other parts are not imagined. But what is clear also from that gap in documentation is that nobody really talked about it very much.
Well, yeah, because back in the day, and I would say between 1800 and probably 1950, much of the subject is completely taboo. Nobody brought up personal hygiene especially when it came to women. And even when I was watching your film, I was still thinking, like, what did they actually do in the 1800s? And then you're saying that a lot of the research is just extremely vague.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, they, from as far as we can tell, they had they created these what are called clouts. They call them clouts, but it's basically fabric folded over and put in there, put under there. And either you kind of, there's some pictures of contraptions where it's kind of like belted around the waist, but then there's other research that suggests you just kind of squeezed your thighs together and waddled around. And then there's other research that suggests some of the lower class women and the prostitutes of the time just kind of let it flow. So
Yeah, that would make sense, because even back in the day, depending on how the woman was growing up, and what a lot of people don't realize, and now I have done this research, that back in the 17th centuries, the average age for a girl to start her period was 17.
yeah, much later than it is
Yeah.
now.
So now, due to environment and all of these other things, the average age is now down to about 13.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
And
no, go ahead.
God.
No, you first.
You-
Ladies first.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, diet, and has also, there's obviously like, again, I'm not an expert on this, but our limited research on this has shown us that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of environmental factors and societal factors and hormonal factors, and all that's kind of informed by our diet and our society and our lifestyle. And it's really kind of changed. So yeah, they had a few more years back then of no menstruation.
In your film, you use let's say a very affluent family, which, when it comes to Jane Austen, most of the movies are based on an affluent family, and so all the women in the film are very educated about this monthly issue, where the men are not. And of course, if it was a lower household or a lower income type household, peasants, I guess we would say, back in 1813, they, a lot of the women may not even understand what's going on until they finally meet someone that can actually explain it to them. Because I'm sure even mothers back then had a hard time even bringing that subject up when it finally happened.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know. It's like we don't know how much women. I mean, one of the things we wanted to really focus on was how women can talk about these things behind closed doors in a way that they can't always in public. And so we don't have any idea what those conversations were actually like.
Yeah, and we definitely took, I mean, Steve and I took some creative liberties here in how much the characters in our film actually know about, the physiological intricacies of menstruation. I'm sure they didn't use some of the words that we used in this film to describe that. And I'm sure that there were men who were at least more aware of them than, say, Mr. Dickley. But, I mean, even it's so interesting since making this film, we've both had friends, family, and strangers who have seen the film at film festivals, for example, share their experiences about either their first period or learning about their wife's pregnancy and all the crazy stuff that happens with a woman's body when she's pregnant. Or, but, I even had a friend who told me that when her mother, these are our modern times now, came to like give her a pad or a tampon for her first period, it was very hush hush. It was like, I don't talk about it. She just kind of like opened the door to the bathroom, slid the tampon in, slid the pad in, and just shut the door. And then like, that's kind of all that happened. So it's interesting, some of the responses that we've gotten from people who've seen this film who were like, oh yeah, back then this was such a taboo topic and there was so much shame around it. And what we've actually found is a lot of that is still true today. So it actually ended up being way more relevant than we.
Yeah, I think the only person that I would feel sorry for in modern day would be a single dad.
Yeah. And in our film, he is also a single dad, and he is doing his best.
I know, and one of the things that I didn't exactly notice it the first time I watched it, except one name stuck out, and I went, "Wait a minute." So I went back, rewatched the film again, so I could pick up all of the characters' names, and oh my gosh, this is the secret gem. I mean, you two must have had a blast coming up with the names of the characters. I mean, Estrogenia, Mrs. Bitts, Dr. Bangley, Vagiana. That's the one that I went, did she just say what I thought she said? And then there's Labrinia, and then Mr. Dickley. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't imagine sitting around in a room. Y'all must have been completely red-faced and just laughing writing these names down.
You are correct.
We
Yeah, we the names were some of the first things that came to us, and we do have a very long list of unused names that will hopefully fly free at some point in an expanded version of this story. But what's funny is, like, while we were writing them, because the names were some of the first things that came to us and made us laugh, we became really desensitized to them.
Yes.
During the writing process.
Yes.
So that when we were in Santa Barbara, for example, and we finally saw the film in a theater with strangers, with an audience, we were both really struck by how people laughed at these names like Vagiana, because it had just become,
like, that's just who she is.
That's just who she is. We just like forgot that these were funny names at a certain point, and then seeing it with an audience and having them just cackle when somebody says the name Vagiana, we were like, oh yeah, that's also really funny.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, this is probably the only short film comedy that I have ever seen that is literally, it's gold. I mean, it's overload gold of how great this film is. I mean, how did you come to cast the film?
Yeah, it was a lot of reaching out to people within our network. Julia's done a lot of theater in Los Angeles, and so we reached out to a bunch of people. Some people we knew personally, like Hugo Armstrong, who played Father. We knew he had acted in a project that Julia's husband directed.
And I've seen him do theater around Los Angeles, and he's just been on my short list forever. Just like, man, I want to work with that guy. And he's grossly underused in this film. He's an incredible one of the finest actors, I think, out there, period.
Yeah.
No pun intended. No.
Well, it was his facial expressions, along with his acting. His facial expressions told a ton.
And also just one take. We'd set up the camera. He'd be like, okay, here we go. And it would be done. And that was it.
We're like, it literally can't get better than what you just did, Hugo. So we're just going to use it.
And what about all of the sisters?
Lavinia, the sister who played Lavinia, is a friend who
she auditioned. We held auditions for the sisters because obviously with three sisters, you want the chemistry to be right. You need tonally their style of acting to be compatible and kind of live in the same world. So we did hold auditions, even though we got, some people were friends and some people were personal recommendations. We still had all the sisters audition.
Yeah.
It was a perfect cast.
Thank you. We're very happy with everybody signing on. It was truly a joy.
I was looking at the sisters, and the way that you had each one. I mean, for a short film, I thought this was brilliant. You were able to showcase each one's own personality, the way their interactions were. Where one of them, I could tell that the younger sister, the blonde, it's almost like she gets picked on a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the chemistry was perfect.
Great.
Thank you. I mean, we're glad it read, because we really did. It really worked on set. When you're filming the film and you can feel it, you're like, this is really fun to make, and you hope it translates into the final product, and it's great to hear that it did.
Oh my gosh, this film is what I call 110%. I mean, if Rotten Tomatoes could go beyond 100, this film deserves. And I'm saying this honestly because I see so much film, and this is literally one that I will never ever forget because it's so daggum funny. But I
Wow.
don't want to give too much away with this film because I want everyone who will have the opportunity to watch it and to laugh as much as I did. But you had Luca Del Puppo bring his A game to the cinematography. I mean, he did Glass, The Slender Man, Green Book, one of my favorite films, just to name a few. How did you get hooked up with Luca?
Luca was actually up to film. My husband is also a filmmaker, and Luca was up to film one of his films, and that didn't end up working out for them, but they remained friends, and Luca has become a really dear friend of mine. And so he's kind of like watched me grow from being only a performer to kind of a content creator and producer director to now stepping into the narrative world as a duo with Steve. And he has just always been nothing but supportive. And we initially were a little scared to ask him to shoot this because we certainly did not have the resources.
We thought he was out of our league.
And
Well,
he probably still is.
The big question mark that I had as I was watching this film a few times, if you look at it for what it is, if you just look at the cinematography only, you're thinking big budget.
Yeah.
It is spot on, beautiful. Yeah, it's a comedy, it's a parody, it's hilarious, but my gosh, you cannot get any better than the cinematography of this film. It matches any Jane Austen movie ever seen. I mean, I would put it right next to Pride and Prejudice because most people would never tell the difference in the cinematography.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, and we did think about that when we were thinking about what kind of cinematographer we wanted to shoot with and like what kind of visual world that we both wanted to live in. I mean, one of the things Steve and I both have agreed on since the beginning is we love comedy, we love satire, and we love cinema. Like we love beautiful images and using the medium for all that it's worth. And we think that when you can have beautiful images that support the comedy. So I had always kind of had in the back of my mind that I wished Luca would want to shoot this because he's such a painter of a cinematographer. He hasn't shot a ton of comedy, and that's actually kind of what attracted us to him. We wanted the images to just be lush and beautiful and live in the world of Pride and Prejudice and not necessarily kind of a more modern aesthetic. We wanted to kind of throw it back to the, I guess, late 90s, early aughts. Is that not modern? Yeah,
but you did it. I mean, you did it perfectly. I mean, this reminds me, there's a little, because of the parody, it's like Monty Python type, a little bit of the Monty Python type dialogue, a little bit. And I love British comedy. So there's also like Benny Hill, but Benny Hill is like really slapstick kind of stuff. And that's not what your film is. But man, if you had all the actors British, I would have because British comedy is hard to beat. But boy, did you rivaled anything they've ever put out with this film.
Wow. This is, you're really boosting our egos here.
I want you to, I talk to filmmakers and it's funny how a lot of them literally have no idea once they get their film done and people see it and they're like, oh, I hope people like it or I think it's good. You have no worries. This film is putting both of you on the map, and I will get on my knees and beg to see either a feature film or a streaming series based on this film because I would binge watch this forever.
Well, that's are also things that we love. And also there's so many more issues that, we would love to explore in terms of women's reproductive health. The world of Jane Austen kind of fits perfectly with these. It's the perfect little world to live in, to have some of these conversations in this way. And there's a lot more funny stuff to happen with it, if I can put it mildly. So we would love to expand it. We have a feature-length script version of it that does expand the world, more characters, more names, more drama, more romance, all that stuff. So the long-term goal would be to live in this world for 90 minutes at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, even when I was watching the film, and I'm sure everybody's had the exact same thought. Okay, so here's the lead character, Estrogenia, has a period, and her boyfriend, who wants to marry her, is trying to understand that she's not injured. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, wow, if they got married, what's that wedding night going to be like? Because that's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother story. There's a whole, and there's, I mean, we'd love to explore pregnancy, which I myself have not experienced pregnancy, but many friends and family members who have, and it sounds wild. So there's a lot there. Menopause, which a lot of people don't talk about. I even had a doctor's appointment recently where just like a checkup, and we were in the middle of writing this short, and I asked the nurse, I was like, can I ask you about your periods? And she was like, why? And I kind of explained, I'm making this film. And I said, if there was something that you wanted people to know about menstruation, like as a health, practitioner, as a woman, what would it be? And she was like, she thought about it for a second, and she said, menopause. She said, I'm going through it right now, and I, as a nurse, am having to Google what my symptoms are because I don't know what's going on. So there's, we'd love to get into that. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Oh, well, yeah. It's funny because when you talked about menopause, the first thing, I don't even know why this popped into my head, but for all of us that have ever seen Downton Abbey, the cook in the kitchen would be the funniest actress to put her in a menopausal dialogue and scene because just the way that she acts, and because she was one of my favorite characters on Downton Abbey because she was always so funny, she was quick-witted, and I'm like, yeah, I could see her dealing with the menopause. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, you can see it. It's easy. It's easy when you think about these period dramas. You're like, yeah, there's a lot of middle-aged women in all of these period films and TV shows, and you're like, they were going through it. So yeah, that's up there near the top of the list of things we would love to explore more.
How long did it take you to film this short film?
2.5 days.
We would love longer in the future.
Wow. I mean, how in the world did you coordinate all of the scenes? Well, where was the location?
It was in we ended up we looked all over the place. We talked about like how can we go to England and shoot this there and how much better that would be because I feel like when you're in England you can like walk around any corner and then you're like, oh, there it is. There's the history. But we ended up, all of our resources are here in LA, all of our connections, all the people that we know, all the favors we can ask for. So we ended up finding a house in La Cañada, which is like,
in Los Angeles, just north of Pasadena. Yeah. It's,
they had lovely, lovely location managers and lots of like furniture and production design pieces already in the house that we were able to use. So it became really economical. And then the style of the house was not quite the right era. It was sort of Tudor-esque. but we just decided, well, that's before Regency, so we can just imagine that this family inherited this house from a previous era. And then there's also sort of a little hacienda vibe, which you just sort of shot around.
Which we tried not to get in the frame. It's an architectural mishmash.
Yeah.
But we just wanted a place. I mean, look, when you make a short film, you typically do not have everything you could need at your disposal, especially to make a period piece. But Steve and I talked a lot about it. And Steve's argument, he's like, we just need something that at least transports people to a different world, so you're not distracted by how not accurate it is.
No, I never even gave it a second thought. I mean, from the opening scene, because you're looking at a countryside that is, I mean, it's as England can get. And then the interior of the home, no one is going to give any second thought of breaking that down. When I looked at it, I'm just like, oh, wow, this is, I don't know where, I personally thought you shot the whole thing in England. Because I talked to so many British filmmakers that I had to look at my schedule list, and I'm like, wait a minute, they're LA.
Yeah.
And then so I'm like, oh, this is interesting. So,
well, we will say that we did shoot those rolling green hills at the beginning of the film were not in LA. And we tried so hard to find rolling green hills in Los Angeles in July. And they only barely exist maybe in cemeteries and universities that water their lawns. And even then it didn't quite look right. It looked like a lawn in Los Angeles. So
you'd have like this much grass and then a palm tree. And that doesn't sing English.
The palm tree would give it away.
Yeah.
So where was the opening scene?
So Luca Del Puppo, our cinematographer, he lives in Connecticut. And so while Steve and I were driving around to literally every corner of Southern California, trying to figure out, we talked to VFX artists, like, can we turn these crusty, dusty brown hills green? And what would that take? And Luca, it seemed like, wandered outside his house in Connecticut and just snapped a couple photos and sent them to us. And Steve was like, well, that's what it is. So should we, it actually ended up being the most cost effective to fly a very, very small group of us to Connecticut. And we ended up shooting in upstate New York, right over the border. But so it is in New England.
Hey, right? That works because I loved the,
it's like,
I love the meadow. Yeah, because the meadow was, I mean, literally it was perfect. I mean, I can literally not find any fault with this film.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It is perfection. It makes me want more. So I want to see a feature film. I want to see a streaming series because this is just too good to leave as a 12-minute short film. But I tell you one thing, you packed so much in 12 minutes that I'm literally telling my friends, I said, you have got to see this film. I said, when you see it, it'll be one of the best short films you'll ever see in your life. And I've seen, my gosh, the amount of dramas that I have to watch. that I was actually talking with a filmmaker in London, and he's won an Oscar. And we got on the subject of why can't people make things that are warm, fuzzy, and funny in the short film world that actually are high quality that we want to watch? And you two delivered.
Wow. Thank you.
And you got to keep this up. But Julia, I have to ask you, your background is opera. I was surprised that you have a background of opera, comedy, and film. Sounds like a mixed bag of entertainment, but it sure does work for you, doesn't it?
Well, it has so far. I've been very lucky to be able to pursue all of those things separately at various points in my life. And a real aha moment for me was with that 7 Rings video that went viral, which was really kind of the first time that I had tried to combine all of those things that I loved so much. And I had no idea if anyone else was going to find that interesting. And they did. So And luckily, I mean, Steve also has a background in classical music, so we've kind of connected on that. And like you said, the project that we met on and was a Sound of Music parody, and Julie Andrews is lives in this classical vocal world as well. And I think it's also really laid the foundation for our shared interest in taking classic things like Jane Austen, for example, and flipping them on their heads in really fun ways. So yeah, it sort of seems like Jane Austen's period drama is actually the natural progression of all these things that I love, which are kind of classical things, but then having a lot of fun with them.
So how did you find out that you could impersonate Julie Andrews? Was it over tequila or what?
Oh, that's a better story. I wish it were.
No, unfortunately, no tequila was involved. But it's really his fault.
Yeah, I put together this Sound of Music parody project in grad school, and auditioned a ton of people, and in a very happenstance way found out about Julia. We met briefly. She was willing to come in for an audition, and when she came in, she did a one-page scene that no other actor had been able to pull off. And it was as though she walked out of my head. I mean, it was like the way she physicalized the script was exactly how I had imagined it. And so it was just like, wow, kindred spirit. There's something here, And then of course it was the singing. She just killed the Julie Andrews singing.
Yeah, I had never tried to do it before that. But in this project, I mean, there were original songs that Steve wrote with Alex Winkler, who actually ended up being composer. He's our composer for Jane Austen's period drama, because we have a great relationship with him. So that was the first time I'd ever actually tried to do anything like that. Tried to sound like her, tried to act or look like her, and it ended up being really fun. I really enjoyed it, and it turns out I can get pretty close. So
wow, I just love the backstories when it comes to cinema and film. But Steve, your background appears to be more into writing comedy. Who are your favorite comedians and comedic actors?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I love comedians who come to mind are all like female comics. Like I love Kristen Wiig. I guess I grew up on SNL, so I grew up with we had the VHS of Adam Sandler's best of SNL. And I grew up on a lot of Jim Carrey. So I grew up on a lot of really broad,
all those women,
physical, right? I'm getting back to the women. I'm getting to the women. I feel like as I've gotten older, women have taken the place of all the men that I grew up with, like Kristen Wiig, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler. That crew of, and also Emma Thompson, who's not exactly a comedian, but has the sort of dramatic and comic chops to do whatever she wants to do. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like those are the people that I follow the most and am most inspired by.
Emma Thompson would really work well in the feature film and play the mother.
She sure would.
Couldn't agree more.
So Emma, if you're watching, this is a film you need to be doing.
Well, she's also, she's one of our favorite, I think our collective favorites as well, because she began in sketch comedy and then went on to write and star in Sense and Sensibility, which is an intensely beautiful film, from the writing to the directing, Ang Lee's directing. So she is, we feel, she doesn't know us, but we feel we feel kinship with her and her career.
Yeah.
Well, I think when I do the movie review for Jane Austen's period drama, I'm going to tag Emma Thompson.
Oh, please do.
Tag Emma Thompson.
But I know that it's very early in the film season, but you two and this film, you need to get qualified, shortlisted, and nominated for an Oscar, because this film literally has all of the qualities of being a winner.
Wow. Well, if you know someone who can put us on that list.
I do know
but
people.
Thank you for the endorsement.
Yes.
I mean, it means it really does mean the world to have anyone even think that.
Yes,
so
seriously.
we're very proud.
We did not think that.
Yeah.
We were,
But we're
Oh no,
very proud of the
you
film.
gotta dream big. This is a
Yes.
film where you can literally dream big and realize that you two have created a film that goes head to head with the big boys.
Wow.
Thank you.
And I have friends who are Academy members who
Wow.
watch my interviews. So I'm wondering, is it legal to start campaigning this early for an Oscar?
We're not quite, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're crazy enough to go for it if the opportunity presents itself. But
So how many submissions do you have now to the film festivals for the rest of the year?
well, submitting to film festivals is
Expensive.
expensive. So we really tried to be targeted towards ones that we thought we would do well at, and some obviously applied to some like dream ones, and we uh, got one of our major dream ones now in Tribeca Film Festival in June, which we are just over the moon about, and they have been nothing but welcoming to us. And I'd always kind of, my perception of the Tribeca Film Festival, for example, was, a lot of kind of gritty dramas, some comedies thrown in there, but they're typically more artistic. So to have our film included in the lineup is a little mind-boggling and really wonderful, and we're so excited about that. And so we have I mean, we've done our submissions. We're out to we're still waiting to hear from a number of festivals, including a couple more dream, top upper tier ones. And we'll just see, we'll keep riding this wave until we crash.
Yeah, crash on the red carpet at the 2025 Academy Awards. That's where you need to be doing that. You bring
That would
something
be an
up.
ideal place to crash.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you bring something up about Tribeca, because I've interviewed so many films from last year that appeared at Tribeca. And you're right. They are really on the artistic side, not on the cinematography side. There's a big dividing line between those two.
Hmm.
Not one of the films, and I've lost count how many Tribeca films that I did last year. Not one became qualified.
Wow.
But I think it's because the films that reach the level of being qualified, shortlisted, and even nominated, every single one of them for the last 2 years, because I've interviewed 4 out of 5 of the nominees for a best live action short 2 years in a row, and they're all cinematic. Artistic. I don't. I know why certain films are pushed as artistic, because there's usually a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
What I love is cinematic, but your film has something that I find a little bit rare. Not only is it a comedy, but it reaches everyone to enjoy it. You're pushing laughter. You're making fun of a time in a woman's life and making it funny and lighthearted. I literally would sit there and watch this film over and over again because it's that good.
Wow. I will say that I think having so much experience creating things for YouTube, in 2019, which is sort of the year that dominated my life and
mine.
And but we really love making things for the people. It's been a joy in a large part to go to Santa Barbara Film Festival, Cleveland Film Festival, and just movie lovers, yes, but not people who are in our industry necessarily. Just respond to the things that make us laugh and the things we want to talk about. And, the festival run has been incredible. And we, like I said, are going to keep riding this wave because it is very fun. but having the approval or the validation of some of these festivals has really been like a cherry on top of the joy that, you know, non-movie industry people get from our work, because that's really who we make stuff for.
And I am so happy that you do, because we need more films like this one. And I mean, it's hard for me to sit through scanning films on streaming, because I'm looking at them like, why did somebody write them a check?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I mean, I was even watching a film the other night, and my wife didn't say anything. And so it was one of them gritty, you know, detective crime kind of drama things. And I didn't say anything because I already knew, you know, probably within the first 15 minutes, that it was not that it was low budget, but there were some miscasting done in the film. And then just yesterday she goes, "That film was really low budget." And I went, "Yeah, it was." But a lot of people won't notice that. You know, they don't see the things you see. They don't see the things that I see. But come on, Netflix, Hulu, and HBO, you need to write Julia and Steve a big fat check, because we need to see Jane Austen's period drama. Not only if it's a feature film or a streaming series, you two got to give us more.
We're trying. We want to too.
We agree.
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
Well, what do both of you have coming up for the rest of the year while your short film is making the film festival rounds?
We are continuing to write. I mean, we have more ideas than we know what to do with, and there's just not enough hours in the day. But we are accepting the limitations of reality and time. But we have a long list of things we want to develop, and we now have a short list of our favorites that we are working on. Not the least of which is, like, you know, taking out the feature film version of Jane Austen's period drama to see who's interested in working with us on that. And beyond that, we have a couple more feature ideas that are still our tone, are irreverent, wild comedies with a lot of heart and purpose. We have a couple series ideas. I mean, the list goes on, but there's a selection of 3 of them that I can think of that we're particularly excited to keep developing. And I always try to take a performing I mean, I'm such a theater baby that if it fits into our writing schedule, I'll take a show here or there, because I'm a theater baby.
Well, I have, you know, that's one of the things that I haven't even touched on. Your performance in this short film is stellar, brilliant, but the timing, the comedic timing, was on point.
Always. It always is.
It's gonna make me blush.
And Steve knows I'm just agreeing, because
it's such a joy to work with her. It's so fun. It's so fun. There's one joke in there. I won't say what it is because I want people to see it, but there's one joke in there that was not in the script, that on set she did her take that was in the script, and I just went, let's just do something different. Like, we have that, let's do something different. Like, she does the take. She said afterwards she knew that it was going to make me laugh. Like, she just knew, and that's what's in the movie. And every time that plays, that moment kills. It just kills. So yes, she's just a natural talent, brilliant timing, so delightful to work with. It's so fun.
I agree. I mean,
you guys.
I mean, seriously. I mean, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you are attending any of the film festivals this year, and Julia Axe and Steve Pinder's short film Jane Austen's period drama is appearing, do not miss this film for any reason. This short film did everything perfect, from the screenplay, the actors, the acting, the stellar highest quality of cinematography, and one of the very few films that you will actually want to see over and over again. Boy, Julia, Steve, you hit it out of the park. And that ball's still going. You did fantastic. And I want to thank you so much for coming onto the program and sharing Jane Austen's period drama, because you left me wanting more.
Thank you so much for having us.
This has been awesome. And thank you for watching the film. And we're so glad that you liked it.
Oh, hey, I'm going to be one of your biggest cheerleaders this whole film season, because I want to see this one go all the way. And so for all of my Academy member friends out there who do watch my interviews, I want to thank you for that. But you need to put Jane Austen's period drama on your list to watch. You have to see this film. You're going to know why I am so excited, why I'm so praise happy over this film, because it is a breath of fresh air that we've needed for a very long time after the last 2 years of, a lot of great short films. But hey, I don't mind drama, but let's go less on the drama and more with funny. We need great comedy. We need more heartwarming stories to, lessen the mood in society, because this is the film that does it. So again, embed this into your brain, Jane Austen's period drama. And for all of you watching and listening, you can catch all of the replays of our interviews with the top film directors, producers, and screenwriters, as well as actors, more at Bond on Cinema. We are also available on YouTube and a dozen audio platforms as well. So we want to thank you for listening and watching. And as for me, I'll either see you at the movies or from the red carpet. And that's going to be red carpet. So keep that in mind. I'll see you next time.